Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to part 2 of our tour here at Fort Nelson. After enjoying the artillery collection outside in the ammunition sheds and the various howitzer machines on display, we were particularly interested in the one-of-a-kind exhibit the fort is holding. So join us for a discovery around more artillery weapons used throughout the ages, a trip to the Falklands War exhibit, and we explore what life was really like for the Victorian soldiers and delve down into the fort's tunnels. The ground floor of the gallery has so many different points of interest. The more noticeable one is the very large Iraqi supergun that was commissioned by Saddam Hussein in the 1980s. It was cast into 2 massive Sheffield steel tubes, but then sieged by British customs before they were shipped out. Interestingly, the end product of the gun would have had 26 different sections, making up to a 156 metre barrel. Another gun of interest is the stone-coloured German anti-aircraft gun. Its distinctive shape is one of the most recognised German weapons in the Second World War. Informally, these guns were known as the Act by the Germans and the 88 by the Allies. What I liked about seeing the variety of guns is that they all had different origins and birthplaces. There is a smaller, skinny, quick-firing anti-aircraft gun that was mounted on a platform, originally owned by the Portuguese army. This gun doesn't look like it would do much, but the quick-firing ones would have really made an impact. Some of the other guns on our route to the Falklands exhibit are home here and make fantastic displays. Just before descending down the stairs and on the left was a famous field gun that carried the remains of both Queen Victoria and King Edward VII. They have silver plaques mounted on the carriage telling us that Her Majesty was taken on this from Osborne House to Cowes in the Isle of Wight in 1901, and the King was taken from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall later in 1910. The carriage was covered in white silk with a crimson cushion at the head with the crown, and the foot of the carriage would have laid the sceptre and the 2 orbs. It would have been so beautiful and elegant, but it's amazing that we have the original gun carriage to show off some of our royal history. Going on through to a number of rooms inside the fort, they have now been converted into a museum that share the stories and show you who and why the fort was built and how it was made. And after speaking with some of the staff here, we found out that the fort was made with millions of local red bricks, not to mention the other forts in the area requiring the same amount. And if you manage to have some spare time, look out for some of the bricks. There are paw prints that can be seen across various parts of the site. There really is so much to see and discover here, and it's been fantastically adapted for the young and the old to come here and enjoy, with the various different interactive displays, and there is plenty to occupy people with. One of the rooms that we do wander through gets you to understand what the fort would have been like for those who volunteered into the artillery. As part-time soldiers, the volunteers were only really trained for national defence. The drill that they had to undergo was made simply and clear enough to encourage people to join up. Also, an annual grant was paid for each man who attended in the parades and drills. Inside of the barrack block, it would have consisted of a series of casemated rooms along the ground floor of a brick building across the gorge of the fort. 9 rooms could each accommodate up to 20 men, with 2 smaller side rooms for corporals. Each of the soldiers were equipped with a telescopic bed, which was folded away during the daytime to allow the tables and benches to be set up along the centre, where they used this room to eat in and for recreational activities. And above each bed was an equipment rack to hold the soldiers' kit and their equipment, and just beside each of the beds was a rack for a rifle. We then make our way inside the fort's hospital. The beds were bleak and unfortunately quite unsanitary, but in those times you had to make do with what was there. Some of the displays here depict the very dire circumstances of the wounded, and then the changes that were made by Florence Nightingale, known as the Lady of the Lamp, because she used to spend every waking minute caring and cleaning for the soldiers. And in the evenings she would move through the dark hallways carrying a lamp whilst making her rounds, administering to patient after patient, and never giving up. Incredibly, Florence managed to reduce the death rate by 2/3 in the British base hospital in Constantinople. Her methods were brought back to Fort Nelson as she revolutionised both the physical care of the soldiers and also campaigned for a cleaner and better condition to the buildings. And in 1871, Fort Nelson had a 10-bed hospital ward that met all of the requirements and hygiene practices that Florence had fought for. Inside the Falklands War exhibit, which is only on for a few more weeks in the fort, we were lucky enough to listen to the stories from the brave soldiers who fought. 2022 marked 40 years since Argentine and the British troops fought to gain control over the Falkland Islands. The 10-week conflict started in April of 1982 and ended on June 14th, when Argentina surrendered. Portsmouth itself played a huge role in the Falklands, when thousands of Portsmouth dockyard workers rallied to prepare the ships to the Falkland Islands. And as you can see in the cases in front, images of the dockyard became the front page news, as massive crowds gathered to welcome the troops and their ships back once the war was over. As you look around the exhibit, you can see a number of heartwarming photographs taken by the local newspaper that's still in circulation, The News, and it featured happy families, crowds, ships, and all of the different homecoming banners celebrating. All of the emotions you can see from happy and sad are very moving to see. There are also many stories from 10 of the Falkland veterans that share their story with you. It's truly something incredible to see and really well put together. We head on through and take a little look around the officers' mess kitchen, with displays of some of the foods that they may have been lucky enough to eat. And we show you around the difference of the hierarchy and how the officers would have lived, slept, pretty much in luxury compared to the soldiers back in the casemates. Carrying on through the barracks and onto the large display in the Art of Artillery gallery that the fort have put together. Most of these guns are designed as showpieces and status symbols, normally given as treasures and gifts, but they were also more than capable of shooting too. Many of the different weapons that are home here include the bronze saker, a Dutch gun with the arms of the Prince of the Netherlands, many different cannons from the era of the 1500s, the 1450 wrought iron bombard, originally known as the English big gun, and many more yet to be discovered. Walking through the gallery, it's just incredible to see the modernisation through the ages, as well as the beautiful artwork on some of the guns themselves. They are perfectly handcrafted and designed to show off wealth and power, and one of those is the Burmese bronze dragon cannon. It's so beautiful and dramatic, and it dates back to the 1790s, and is cast in the form of a dragon. One of our favourite parts about visiting Fort Nelson was heading into the World War II detention cells. One of the first things you'll see are the whitewashed walls, bare and eerie, and you can wonder what kind of people would have been placed inside these cells. First, after the waiting room, we have the guard room cells and the toilets. Amazingly, all over these walls there are World War II era graffiti from the soldiers that were about to be or already had been deployed to Europe. It's so incredible to see the stories that they've drawn and some of the views that they had. Some of the jokes between the men in sketches are quite funny as well, as the drawings of the people, tanks and dates. I won't go on too much more, but this really was a highlight in visiting here. You can also step inside one of the lonely cells and imagine life behind closed doors, bleak and mind-numbing. Now onto the incredible underground tunnels. We were able to venture down into the main tunnel that was part of a network of channels that would have allowed soldiers in the garrison to reach the more important areas of the fort's defences. Including the powder magazines and to the three Caponias, the north, west and east. The first thing that you noticed on your way down is the conveyor belt, which ran alongside the tunnel and was added in the Second World War to speed up the movement of ammunition to and from the magazine, keeping things efficient and easy. The tunnels can be quite eerie if you're by yourself, and I've read some of the more famous paranormal stories here that include a whistling sergeant major wandering up and down the tunnel, banging and footsteps heard from former prisoners, and some ghost hunters who have been here and said that they've detected a large 7-foot male spirit who has been seen walking with a lantern and peering over people. Whatever you believe or don't believe, this place has the atmosphere for a spooky visit, especially in the cells and down the tunnels or around the spiral staircases that take you up above to the firing ranges. The large rooms were home to many different ammunition and storage for the artillery. They are again quite unnerving in these rooms, but you can imagine them full with the hustle and bustle back in the day, and more importantly, the rooms would have been full to the brim with ammunition and shells ready for any battle. Alongside the tunnel passage is what's known as the shifting lobby. The main concern of any gunpowder storage area is to make sure that no disasters or slip-ups happen, and that they are avoided inside the fort. So to reduce any of these risks, the men had to first change into soft slippers and special magazine overalls. They would change in the first part of the lobby, then move alongside to be inspected, before being trusted inside the magazine. Reaching the bottom of this dark tunnel, you were able to see inside the northern Caponia, which, as you can see, contained 2 stories of artillery and infantry firing ports. There are a number of windows and loopholes, making sure the line of ditch was suitably covered. One of the guns on show here is the 32-pounder naval rifle. It's just quite daunting but impressive to see how well covered and prepared they actually were. On our way back out of the fort, we head along the bypass tunnel. This bypass section was made so that the soldiers wouldn't be interfering with their heavy-duty boots near the gunpowder stores, and making sure that all of the routes were safe to take. So we hope you've enjoyed our part 2 of visiting Fort Nelson. There really is so much to do here. It's not a place you visit for half an hour. You should try and take your time and enjoy the history unfolding for you. They have accessible toilets, a beautiful cafe serving up some yummy cakes and sandwiches, as well as a fantastic gift shop with plenty of war memorabilia to remember your time here. Entrance to the fort is free for everyone. All that they ask is that you pay £3 towards parking. It's honestly such a good deal considering the sheer amount of information and the different things you get to see. If you've liked the video, please be sure to hit that like button. Consider subscribing to our Patreon or to the channel. It would really mean a lot to us. Thank you to all of our Patreons for your support, and thank you to everyone choosing to watch the video. We'll see you in the next one. Till next time.